Welcome to the Spirits, Angels, and Guides Oh My podcast.
Where the supernatural gets real, baby.
Hey, Tara.
Hello, Nan.
How are you?
I am lovely. Thank you so much for asking. How are you?
I'm so good. Loving the fact that our Patreon is doing amazing and we've got all sorts of new people in our community. And we will be talking a little bit more about that later. But they have asked and we are listening. Tonight, we are going to talk about spiritual awakening.
We are. And just before we get all down into that rabbit hole, because I got things to say, Nan, I got things to say. I want to tell everyone that we are going to be doing a message for one of our Patreon members, fan club, goddesses. So, Deborah C., I hope you're listening. You got to stay to the end, girlfriend, because that's where we're going to hit you up with some spiritual guidance. So, Deborah C., stay with us. Thank you for supporting us in our Patreon. And let's get to the topic at hand. Nan.
Hey, girl, I'm here.
Okay, so we're talking about spiritual awakenings.
Yes.
You know, I mean, there's so much to this. Do you know what I always think about, though, Nan, when we talk about a spiritual awakening? And for whatever reason, I mean, I don't know why I didn't look this up, but it was a Stephen King book, and I think it's Dead Zone, where he has that car accident or some kind of accident. I mean, I haven't read Stephen King books since I was little, but I read every one of them. Stephen King, you are a master. But I read all of them when I was younger, but I think it was Dead Zone, and I think that was the one where he had an accident, and all of a sudden he became kind of psychic, right? God, you guys can all correct me if I'm wrong. And that was a form of a spiritual awakening. Lots of people talk about that being a form, like having some kind of traumatic injury, usually a head injury, that can lead to a spiritual awakening. Now, uh, there's all sorts of things. I've listened to lots of people claim lots of things, and I don't know. I don't know. What was your spiritual awakening?
It's interesting because you're right. Like, I've heard that from a lot of my mentors that there's something that's tumultuous that happens in your life and it just shifts you into the next gear. For for me, even when I was a child, I was talking to dead people. So
Mhm.
I didn't really have, let's call it okay, I'll get to a spiritual awakening in a second, but I didn't really have this big aha moment that they talk about in certain spiritual awakenings. But what I did do is, when I was in school and before sort of, I guess, grade 10, um, I took a break. Like, because you're working on development, you're working on learning, your body is growing, your brain is developing, all these things. You're going through puberty, all these things. I find there's not a lot, and people can come at me for this, but there's not a lot of child psychic mediums out there practicing because they got other shit to worry about. So, you know, but it's when suddenly if I needed a catalyst, it would have been, okay, I've graduated from school. I'm going to go into university. Oh my God, my whole life is changing. This massive, massive shift. That could be called it, but I know
Yeah.
other people have talked about it in a more um giant way. Like they were in a car accident, they had a near death experience, but I don't think it's always attached to that. I feel like we have these moments where we awaken a little bit at a time, right? Like,
Yeah, I agree with that.
you did, when we first met, I attended one of your online things during COVID, and I remember there was, I won't name her name, but she was doing a presentation, and she was talking, and I'm like, "Oh, man, my third eye was really, really aching." And she's like, "Oh, that's because you're just figuring out that you're a medium." And I was like, No, I am a medium. I've been doing readings for years." But it was like, it was so funny because that's like, that was her only explanation. It was black and white. But that is a sign sometimes for people, right? Like your clairs start to vibrate more and you start to become more in tuned with them. I don't know. What's your opinion? Did you've kind of been like me, you've been one your whole life.
So, a catalyst, that's a good word for it. I guess, I mean, I wasn't, yeah, 3 years old. I can remember 3 years old. My biggest thing was my parents not know when to do with me because I couldn't sleep at night, because I was up playing. I had the most wicked Barbie apartment, let me tell you, girl. I had 3 stories. Oh, and I was up playing all night with my imaginary friends and stuff, but I also had a healthy fear of this, going to sleep, so there was all this extra going on. So, I didn't sleep very well. I played with, imaginary friends. Um, but my catalyst to it, I mean, and here's something interesting though, is I've always been, and I'm sure you're gonna say you were too. I've always been interested in the supernatural, in oracle cards, in not so much mediumship, because back when we were growing up, mediumship was not as profoundly practiced as it is now. So for me, mediumship was not as, you know, card reader, gypsy, crystal ball, anything like that was more interesting. So I was already into all of that stuff, but the catalyst for me was probably when we lost our son. I've lost two sons at 6 months. And 6 months, inside. And when I lost that, my sister said to me, because my sister's into all of this, and Paula, if you're listening, you're supposed to be doing the work. I said it, I meant it. Um, and she said, there's a spiritualist church like 10 minutes from your house. And she'd been going there with her friend Peg for a little while. And I was like, okay. And that's when I went down there. And that's when I just kind of was like, oh, oh, that explains a lot. And I sat in circle and stuff. So catalyst was losing my son. And then going down to the church and figuring it all out. I didn't get knocked on the head. I always call myself a natural born medium, which is kind of silly because everyone is born being a medium, but I've seemed to have really stepped into it from an early age and kind of held that energy, right? So that was kind of the catalyst for me. But as many times as I've heard someone say, "Hey, I got hit in the head," I hear more that they've had something very, emotional happen to them, more than physically happen to them. They've had like this aha moment where they're like, "F this. I'm tired of sitting in this lowly energy, and I like what spirituality means. I feel like I want to rise above." And that's when they start looking into what kind of tickles their fancy, if you will. I mean, there's modalities up the wazoo, baby. Like, I mean, there's 17 different kinds of mediums, and there's 250 different kinds of energy practitioners, and different kind of card readers, and then you can blend all of it, and basically what we all are, intuitive mediums, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we all are. But that's, I really feel it's mostly an emotional catalyst that happens, something where they've actually hit like a rock bottom space too sometimes, or a lot of the times where they've just kind of like, I just can't do this anymore. That what the life I'm leading is not fulfilling me. Where else can I turn to? And lots of people will actually turn to organized religion. They will go from church to church to church. And we sometimes have people come to our spiritualist church that have been doing the church hop-in, right? It's like a bar hop-in, it's a church hop-in, and they will come to the church and they'll be like, "Oh, you know what? I just went to the Anglican church, or I just went to the Baptist church, and yours is next on my list." And they're like awed by the church and the energy of being a spiritualist.
Yeah, it's very, very different, and that makes sense too. I'd have to agree with you because for me, leaving high school, stepping into this, it was very much an emotional change because suddenly you're sitting in this place of independence where you're not living at home, you're having to be you, right? I've had people come to me in development circles where they're going through a divorce or they've lost a pet, different things. So I'd have to agree with you. And the other thing I'd like to add to the conversation is if we're gonna call it spiritual awakening, is different. Like, some of you, it's like easing into it like a hot bubble bath. Other people, you wake up one day and it's like, kaboom, you've been hit in the head. It came at you hard and fast, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, when it does happen, when whatever it is you are receiving in whatever way, it can be very exciting, it can be overwhelming, it can be a little bit like, "Oh my god, there's so much I wanna do." And that's usually when I'm very careful in how someone comes into one of our circles, right? And they're overexcited. They want to do it all and they want to do it tomorrow. Do you remember? It's the Doreen Virtue thing. You cannot become a medium. You cannot become a intuitive practitioner by taking a 3-day course. It's the start to your journey for sure. It might be the leveling up you need to go to the place where you could start, but you cannot become an angel card certified angel card reader. Why do I want to choke on that every time I hear it? In 3 days, if you haven't been practicing the work. So, let's talk for a second, Nan, about what it means you and I doing this from a very, very early age. We weren't being nurtured in it. At least I wasn't. I don't know, were you?
No, 'cause, back then, a lot of it there just wasn't the teachers. I mean, now the children that are incarnating with people like you and me, so we can guide them and teach them, right?
Yeah, no lie detective, so it's a different thing. So they didn't know, remember? I said my mom actually sent me to a psychologist, or a psychiatrist or one of the psycho things, and was like, and can you tell us what's wrong with this lovely specimen I gave birth to, please?" And when in reality, there was nothing wrong, it's just no one knew how to kinda cope with it. And then when I did finally realize, "Oh my god, I can do this," it was cool. It was like, now what do I do?" Right? Is this something and for me, again, it was natural. I never had that pause where I was second guessing my work with spirit. I had the pause where I was a little bit worried about some judgment from, like, my mom and my dad and, "Where does this happen?" And your friends that, like, totally have no idea that you are woohoo and all of a sudden you like you're handing out business cards that says you're a medium and they're like, "Where the hell did this come from?" One day you just and my husband, because I wasn't doing the work until after I was married. I was doing the work beforehand, but I wasn't doing the work until after I was married. So how do you just walk into a room and you're just like, "Hey, you know, by the way, I talk to dead people." Okay, okay, good. It'll help pay our bills, I promise. All right. How do you do that? Um And a spiritual awakening, like you said, it's so different for everyone. I think the biggest thing that freaks me out about the number of people running circles and claiming to be spiritual coaches and don't nobody ever call me a spiritual coach. I'm not coaching you in anything. Um, I will mentor you, I will guide you, but I am not a coach. And the only difference is I hate the word coach. So, I worry a little bit about the type of people that have just kind of fallen onto this is fast money, this is an easy way to make money, not coming from the place of being of service. That's such a big thing for me is that and I think part of that is because I did a lot of my development in a spiritualist church, right? In a place where there were the 7 principles, and you can ask me to name them, and I can name 2. But where the 7 principles, and there's just this overwhelming feeling of wanting to be of service. And I think that that makes a difference, if you're gonna have a spiritual awakening, if you're gonna shift your mindset, and what does that even mean? Do you become more compassionate? Do you all of a sudden recognize that your empathy is maybe a little stronger than other people's empathy? Do you suddenly realize the voices in your head are actually spirits, not like, I don't know what. Do you know what I'm saying? Like what does a spiritual awakening actually mean?
That's a great question. I mean, for me, it's been about the journey. For me, it's not, we all want it fast. We all want, like you said, to take that 3-day class and just be an expert. But when we're working towards the end goal or the end result, it's the journey. It's the always be learning. That's for me part of the awakening because I might learn something from you today, then I might learn something from someone tomorrow, and I'm constantly having these aha moments and taking it in and making my own special sauce with it, so to speak, right? So yeah, I guess it's really defined as what does that mean to the listeners? Like, do you need to define it with a moment, or is your whole life just about awakening before we return home?
Oh, I love. I mean, there's always a place where you can kind of level up, right? But I believe that some people are guided, and again, spirituality means, again, different things for different people, different organized religions, all those things. So I love the idea of what you just said, though. Is like, isn't this just really a journey where you just kind of are going through and you're learning and you're developing, and what resonates with you becomes part of your existence. So, yes, there is an awakening. We can use that terminology for sure, because my awakening was when I lost some things that was going to be very, very special, was special. And then my sister's like, go check out this place. And then I had an opportunity to learn so much more, right?
It was more the catalyst, right? Losing your
But it still needs to be there. Sometimes you still need that catalyst. Like I said, I loved that we're doing it from the beginning, like you said. Like, this is just you wake up, you come out of the womb, you're like, hey, and then you kind of flow, and you don't know what you're doing. You're perceiving other people's belief structures, behavioral patterns. You're doing all the things that everyone's telling you to do, and then you all of a sudden come to the realization that either it's not enough, or it's not authentic to you, or you have that knock on the noggin that sends you into the next realm. And people do the metaphysical work differently too. There are people that are absolutely called to do energy work, to be what the old terms used to be, the healers, right? That's it. That's all they're interested in. They don't want to talk to dead people. They don't want to do, and I say that with love. They don't want to read cards. They just want to do energy work, and that nothing wrong with that. And then there's other people who just are like straight up mediums who don't want to touch a single thing that they can't be providing evidence with. So it's got to be evidential mediumship, and it's got to be, the message doesn't matter. It's just got to be evidence, evidence, evidence. And I always go to Granny in her pink panties, smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. And then there's the people who read the cards, and they're able to be fluent in the card readings, right? They're able to flow with the energy, what the card means, and pull it through. And then there's those of us that are what I call clairauls, and that simply connect to spirit. Therefore, they can do whatever type of modality that spirit says they should be doing at the time. So I'm a clairaul. I can see, feel, hear, know, taste, and smell. I can do trance mediumship without having to take um, trance courses that other people are telling you this is the how to do it. Spirit was like, no, just do you, baby. You're doing it. I can read cards. I can do energy work if I want to. I can do conscious channeling. Do you know what I mean? So because I trust spirit. I trust spirit. So the awakening can be one portion of a modality. It could be just the opportunity to figure out what you like to do, because doing this work, you should be passionate about it,
yeah.
right? I mean, at the beginning, there might be trepidation for sure.
I think there's always trepidation when you're stepping into the public light, because we all worry so much about, excuse me, we all worry so much about judgment, right? And so there's always that trepidation, and we worry that we're doing it right. And I think that that's the best part about spiritual awakening is, as long as you're doing you, as long as you're doing it authentically, and as long as you're doing it from a place of service, I think that that's the most important part with awakening.
Absolutely. Intention's everything. But I'm going to say something. I absolutely, after probably 6 months of being at the spiritualist church and sitting in Liza and Susan Kalasa and Patty Hutchison circles, these are all the old school mediums. Susan didn't even believe in spirit guides, but she could, connect hella fast and do the work. I think after sitting in all of that, I realized it wasn't about whether I was doing, I never worried whether it was right or wrong. I just did it. And then whether it resonated with the person or not, that was up to them. And sometimes I'd go away and be like, oh, that was a shit message. Like, what the fluff was that, Tara? But the person would contact me and be like, oh, that was great. Thank you so much. You hit the, and I was like, okay, which showed me that I had to really be conscious of that ego, right? Of being that left-brained when I was doing this, and just I'm not never left brain when I'm doing it, but left brain afterwards. Like, it was done. They can take it or they can leave it. I trust what spirit gave me,
But that's
right?
also your personality too, because you you're like that with people, right?
Oh, I know what I'm like. No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, for me, it would be different because I never not trusted spirit. So I never questioned necessarily what I was giving. And even when I'm saying to you that few things like, oh, that was a shit message, Tara, what the fluff was that? That wasn't me necessarily questioning what I was giving. It was more along the lines of, like, how I gave it. Like, "Oh," because in my mind, I was like, "Did they actually receive that? Did they really feel that energy? Could they understand what I talking about? Or was I just having, like, an off moment being the conduit?"
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm extra. I know it. It's me, my husband, I feel sorry for him.
I think he loves you just fine. I wouldn't worry about it.
So, Nanny, what would you suggest to someone who was maybe going through the beginnings of a spiritual awakening, whether it's from a knock on the noggin, whether it's a mental and emotional? Like, what would you suggest to them if they were suddenly like, hey, you know what? I'm a little bit lost and I feel like there's something more for me out there, and I'm kind of liking the, the good vibes with the spiritual metaphysical communities.
That is a great question, and
I am full of great questions, woman.
I think a lot of it you and I have covered out over a lot of our podcasts, and we've even covered today. The first thing you need to do is get yourself into a community that energetically aligns with you, that feels right, and then just start dipping your toe in the water. Because when you're with a safe, like-minded community, like the church or like a circle or like even the empowerment group that you run, it's one of those things that people can thrive and also dive in a safe manner. We don't all get it right out the gate, and we're gonna get some stuff wrong, and you're not always gonna be 100%, but if you're surrounded by people who are lifting you up and helping you and saying, "Oh, you know what? That was close. How about try it this way?" Or reconnect this way, right? Like, if you have some guidance.
That was close. You almost brought in the father figure.
Well, you know what I mean,
I know, I know.
in a gentle capacity,
I
telling people.
I will say this though, that being the number one thing you brought up is so important. Who you're mentoring with, and I do highly suggest finding someone to. I mentored with Claudette Gooden, lovely medium, passed over to the other side now. I didn't need her for very long, but she was enough for me to kind of give me some foundation, some ethics and etiquette to giving them a reading. I'm very grateful for that. Um, and just the person you pick to be around, or the circle you pick to be in, these should be people that have a good vibe to them. There's always going to be one, though. I swear to the great goddess. There's always going to be one in the circle where you're like, oh, you are definitely reptilian. But you want to be surrounded by people that hold your space. You want to, because somewhere down the line, you're going to want to be able to turn to them and be like, okay, I'm confused, or I'm not feeling it the same way everyone else is, or something happens. I mean, you know this as well as I do, that our spiritual pod, the women and men in our spiritual world, will hold our energy all day, every day if we ask them of it. And these are people that we can work with easily and effortlessly. What I don't recommend, and again, you can come at me if you'd like, is I don't recommend like starting your journey and just solely reading all the books about it. Sylvia Brown, Ted Andrews. Not that there's anything wrong with any of them. That's not what I'm saying. But where's the practical practice in that? Right? Where are you being able to hone your skill set? Because everyone has a different skill set with this, right? For some people, things are going to come easier than others. And that's why we tend to move towards different modalities, because it sits better with us. It's easier for us to connect in that way, to be that conduit for spirit. Because remember, you are nothing special, my boo-boos. I mean, you're special to Nan and I, but you're nothing special because you're just the conduit. You're just the vessel. So just keep that in mind. If you were just going like, hey, no, I'm just watching YouTube video after YouTube video after YouTube video, or I'm listening to podcast after podcast after podcast, you're gonna want to get out there one day with a group of people that can be like, hey, 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 you got this going on, or whoa, 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 maybe you want to take a look at this. Because there is etiquette, there are rules to the game. What are some of the rules, Nanny?
Oh, there's so many rules. And I agree with you. I feel like doing the work is so important. But practice, practice, practice. Like when I first came out to hang my tile, I didn't charge a single dime until I did probably like 100, 200 readings easily. And it was just one of those things that I needed to make sure that I had done the work. I had done the practice. I was coming from an authentic place. Um, okay, hard stop rule. Never tell someone when they're gonna die or someone they know is gonna die. You can absolutely karmically change fate, and that is so ethically wrong.
Bingo, that's the number one thing. You have to remember, you're not God. You're not playing God. Even if spirit came to you and said, "Holy sweet Jehoshaphat, this person is about to bite the big one." You can't just throw that out there because everything can change. We are not fortune tellers, and I think that's another misconception out there. Because just because spirit tells us this and we pass it along does not mean it will absolutely 100% come true, because there's so many things that have to align. One, other people's energy, other people's path. They can change, which will therefore change your path, babies. Right?
Yes, and another one, if we always talk about Tara's triggers, but this would be a Nancy trigger, don't diagnose. Please do not tell people if they have a disease or, anything like that. And just returning to the death comment, I have people come to me all the time for animals and we'll do a reading and they'll be like, are they gonna die? Should I put them down? I'm never gonna tell you that. I'm gonna tell you to consult a vet. I'm gonna tell you to work with your vet, and I'm gonna tell you to listen to your animal because your animal is gonna communicate when they're ready to pass and they're ready to go home. Like there's fundamental ethics and integrity on what you would have in any conversation with a friend. So you want to make sure you're doing that with the utmost respect with whoever's sitting in front of you.
Oh, absolutely no lie, although you did tell me Cookie could go. Um,
No, now I did. It's different. So let's clarify for the listeners. Um, she had been suffering for a long time, and you said, I don't I don't want it for how did you put it to me? You just said, you asked
it was a shitty situation all
it
around.
was a really shitty situation all around. She was not doing well, and you just said, "I just need to know." And I said, "It's okay."
Yeah,
And that's
that's
all
what
it
it was.
said. And that was up to you to take away and go, "Okay, now that I'm not emotionally, because you're emotionally invested in this with everything that had gone on with Cookie, it's hard when we love them so deeply to and for you, there was a lot of other stuff going on, so to see through the grief that you were experiencing in order to connect to her connection, it was a bit different.
Yeah, I was just having fun. I was great at you. Those riddles and riddles. Okay, one thing I want to mention though is that spirit will give you the ability, if you are capable, if you are open to this, remember we all do it differently, to see certain things in someone. So like Nan said, you would never walk in and be like, holy shit, you have cancer, you're about to die. You would never do that. What spirit has always done with me, and I've always been so grateful for, is they give me compassion, kindness, and gentle guiding to move them in a certain direction.
Yes, yes.
Okay? To move in a certain direction. Oh, I'm feeling like it's time for a checkup. Just a checkup. You find ways to say things. It is not our duty to play God. And we can change people's lives both for the better and for the worst. So I think we should leave this off, Nan, if you're okay with this, and go into Deborah C's reading with this. Your messages are always to be positive movement forward, even if they're a little heavy, a little somber. But you need to learn the etiquette. If you're having a spiritual awakening and you think, I'm going to be a reader, or even if you're having a spiritual awakening and you're like, I'm going to become more intuitively open to myself, right? All about the solar plexus. It is your job to sit in your power, to learn how to do this from the right place. Period. And as I said, if you want to read books and follow YouTube and do all of that, you're only going to get a minimum of the work. And what's going to happen is you're going to be watching too many people and get too many perspectives and never find your own authenticity in how you would do the work. And that's my TED Talk for today.
Well done. Well done. And the last bit of advice, and then we'll get over to lovely Deb. Don't show up and throw up, please. Like, I know it's very exciting when we're first doing development and we're having these spiritual awakenings. You know, it's this just adds on to what Tara just said. Everything needs to come with a beautiful movement forward. If you have a message to give to someone, this is what I do. If somebody's walking by and their spirit drops in and says, I have a message, I say to the spirit, you find a way to get that person in front of me and I will give that message.
Oh yes. We didn't go down the road of please do not be just popping messages off to anyone that's just walking past you. We'll do that another time, but you are absolutely right. If you are meant to give a message, that person is going to find you. Period. Bar none. Bar none.
Yeah.
And I know people like to go up to me, can I give you a message, please? At least you asked. There's people that don't. Is your mother dead? Hello, do I do? It's fine. Sorry, can you pass me the cucumbers? Like, what the hell? Yeah. There's ethics, there's things, and there's a reason for them, babies. So, with that note, we are always open, Nan and I, for questions. Throw them in Instagram, throw them up onto the or down on the comments below here. If you're following us on Patreon, we have our live stream Q&A every month. There's lots of ways you can reach out to us, or straight up just go to our websites and just be like, hey girl, I loved what you were saying. Can you clarify? We're happy to help you.
Exactly.
Are we ready for Deborah C?
One last comment and then we're ready for Deborah. Everybody's awakening is going to be different. So please, please, please reach out. That's what we're here for. That's why we're trying to share our experiences with you. And we wish you a very easy spiritual awakening.
Yes, a very easy one. You've got this. Okay, Deborah C. Girl, it is time for your session. Can I start?
Yes, please.
Okay, so Deborah, the very first thing I get from you is a beautiful man coming through in spirit. He's a little funky, he's a little fun. This feels like father energy, please. It feels like when he's coming through it, I'm like, hey, she's not here. She doesn't, I'm going to give this to her down the road. And he's like, that's fine, that's fine. He says, tell her to spend all the money. Tell her to do everything that fills her heart. Tell her that she's done more for others than others have done for her, including myself. And tell her that there is no harm in spending the money. He says he knows that you won't spend it all, so he feels safe in telling you this. He says that he feels that when you are doing something for yourself, you have a hard time accepting that you're doing something for yourself. You overthink it, you go back and forth a little bit. He says, that's okay. You keep doing that. That's you doing you. Okay, Deborah? But he wants you to know that it's okay to spend the money. And I feel like this is his money. So spend it. And I'm going to leave that with you, Deborah. What a beautiful message from I do feel this is your father's energy, please. I feel he's been gone for maybe a year or two. I don't feel he's been gone that long. And I feel like he is sitting back. And there's something about him going on a cruise with you or had been on a cruise with you when he first crossed over. You must have gone on a cruise of some sort. So I'm going to leave that with you.
I love that. So, as you guys know, I'm into the whole spirit animals as an animal soul guide. So, I pulled a quick card for you and I pulled Raven, which I absolutely love for you, Deb. This is really about getting back into nature. This is about focusing on connecting with your higher self, with your spirit guides, bringing through those messages, bringing through the most absolute beautiful connections. Use those clairs, use all the spiritual development that you've been doing and working on and pull that in. And then ask Raven to come and lift the veil and make it thinner and make it easier for when you are connecting, when you're leveling up. I'm also getting from your guides that I feel that there's a cusp about to happen of that next step up, so that suddenly you're going to have this epiphany and you're gonna be like, "Oh, hot dang." And it makes sense with the spiritual awakening that we're talking about this because I feel they're gonna be giving you some really cool leveling up that you're gonna wanna tap into. So this is really about the spiritual work you're doing. And the cool thing with this deck is it has crystals on the other side. So the moquet marbles are what came up. I'm saying that so wrong. I'm butchering that word. Um, but this is really, if you wanted to work with these crystals, it's about um, working with your voice. So this is a lot coming through with the throat chakra. And these marbles are incredible because what they do is they open that up. So they make the communication easier. So what you're downloading from spirit, you're going to be able to easily articulate and give to others. And just, it's the art of listening. So they allow the ears to be open and the voice to flow freely. So I'm going to leave that with you.
Yay, Deborah. Yay, Nan. Well done.
Thanks.
Oh, friends. Okay, we're going to bring this one to a close. Make sure you guys are following us on all our platforms. And hey, we have upgraded the Patreon. It is now Spirit, Angels, and Guides. Oh my.
Oh my.
Oh my. And go check it out. We have tiers like you wouldn't believe. Tears. Whoa, we're so happy we're crying. We have tiers that have so much stuff. We are focused on intuitive development, messages, guidance, meditations, and a little bit of fun stuff here and there. We're gonna have some guests in there. So go check us out. Make sure you're following us and give us a like on Spotify, Apple, Podbean, wherever you are listening to us. And check out the Instagram because we're doing our spirit scopes as part of the podcast now. If you go to Instagram and put in your Nan, I'm gonna start coughing.
Oh. And I will take over here after I'm done laughing at her, which was really bad. I shouldn't be laughing at my friend choking. Go over to Instagram, put your comments in there, engage with us, throw up what you would like to see on the episodes that we're going through. And I've lost track of where you were going to go with this, with what they're supposed to post.
That's what happens when you talk so fast. What I was going to say to you guys is go to Instagram. If you put in your sign, right, then we are going to be picking people. We're going to pick one or two people and give you guys your own horoscopes the first podcast of the month. So your own horoscopes within the whole horoscopes. Horoscopes, spirit scopes. Why do I call them horoscopes? Spirit scopes, people. So go join the Instagram. Make sure you tell your friends about us. And that's it. We're going to go. Bye. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the wonderfully weird and metaphysical.
If you loved what you heard, don't forget to follow us for more insights and behind the scenes fun.